Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. If you guys are new here, don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 4K. Um, Champions League match day 3. 9 points out of 9 points, sitting pretty in fifth. Could it have been better? Obviously, we have been of the opinion that this team has levels to go, gears to go, and it was again on display tonight. I think in 4K. I wouldn't be too unhappy about the outing. Obviously, this is another reminder that the attack and the way we set up to counter low block, mid block teams aren't necessarily there yet. Mbappe kind of is so good that he kind of masks the entire shortcomings of how we get to the final third and how we fashion our chances. But yeah, I think we still played well. I think we absolutely battered Juve for large parts, apart from the obvious, almost predictable lapses in concentration, especially at the beginning of the second half, and then here and there in the first half as well, where I think a better side again would take their chances. But I do think our defense and Thibaut especially held their own, and we saw it out in the Champions League under a new manager and under tricky circumstances like this, where we are missing arguably our number one centre back partnership, and the fact that leaders like Carvajal is completely out of the picture. We kind of need to just get the 3 points and then call it tonight. I think we did that, and in the Champions League, we all know what we had to go through last year to get to the round of 16. So I'll be super grateful if we can skip the entire round of 32 nonsense and just give it a rest and let us regenerate and come back firing in March. But big up people in the chat, big up people who are going to be tuning in later on as well. Ashik was already mentioning, a pulsating performance. Even the 60, 70 year old Barcelona players are wondering that they can hammer this brand of everyone's beloved tactical football. Yeah, I mean, we play a pretty rigid system. That's the basis of what we see, in my opinion. There has been a few neat tweaks post the Carlo era, but still, there isn't enough. If I'm not sure if it's freedom of movement or if our players aren't really quite there to actually make it happen, because we all know, I've said this a million times, Jude Bellingham getting on the end of that chance is Jude Bellingham, right? That's his brand. He is someone who never gives up, anticipating a half chance that might fall his way. But you see, in that very frame, Mbappe is rooted to the spot outside the box. He doesn't make that run, so that's one example. Vinicius again, these guys are more or less wingers, so they tend to take up wide spots, edge of the box, and kind of clogs up the final third at times. Jude Bellingham or the Guller is also another issue that we'll touch upon. But these players have enough quality, I think, to overcome such minor inconveniences, especially in a transitional season. But yeah, standards are there to be maintained, and we probably represent a club that has upheld some insane standards for the last couple of decades. So the challenge is on, and I say bring it on. Over to you, Sahil. What's your feeling like? 9 points, third match at home. Juve not in their best vein of form, but anything other than a win, especially with the kind of performance we saw, would have been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, you mentioned Juventus's form. Firstly, I'm very grateful to be here, and obviously delighted that Real Madrid make it through to the next stage of the Champions League. Obviously, with few upcoming fixtures, none of them to be taken lightly as such, but
Mm.
the fact that we are in the next round, um, well, for knockouts, elimination, whatever you might
Are
call
we
it,
are we in the
is
next round? We are not in the next round yet, Sahil. I mean,
are we not? Because 9 points out of 9 is pretty much confirmed, right?
I'm not
Us,
sure.
Arsenal,
Is it?
and
Is
maybe
it?
Bayern are the few teams,
I, I
but
think
yeah, I
it's
think if
16 points to be absolutely sure, because the table mathematically, I think I've read it somewhere. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but yeah, 9 points. I wouldn't relax just yet, especially with Anfield. Um,
looming, yeah, no,
yeah.
no, obviously, but I'm pretty sure I had the commentators say it, or I might have misheard, but yeah, like 9.79 is the best you can ask for, and from the offset, it's pretty like it's a pretty bleak margin, right? It's 1-0 win against a weary looking Juventus side who honestly gave
Yeah.
it their all, but in the end, it did feel and seem like they could have done more against what was a fractured Real Madrid defense,
Mm,
uh, which looked, in all sorts, sometimes with Raul Asensio and Militao, uh, on skates against Juventus's front two. But we managed. I think the the perspective that Xabi Alonso took, starting Brahim Diaz, starting Arda Güler, was to control more of the possession in that first half, and I think that's certainly what we did. We had around
mm,
65-70% possession.
yeah.
So we kept the ball pretty well in that first half. We didn't create too many chances, but we were tight in not giving away too much to Juventus, apart from
Hmm.
a few early blows. Um, and again, Juventus in the second half also roared loudly because teams do tend to take those first 5 minutes of every half as something that you cannot give Real Madrid breathing room in. Like you have to pounce on every opportunity that they give you because Real Madrid have this tendency, I should say, of being complacent. So there was some of that tonight. Uh, Obviously, the feeling is not one that's negative. I
Mm,
can't possibly pick out too many
yeah.
negatives that I haven't already this season. There were uh, like pure tactical flaws. Yes, there
Mm,
was a lack of clear cut chances, somewhat, but not as much as in other games. I know
mm,
Juventus is not the most well drilled defense as past Juventus sides were. Like we certainly saw that in their recent defeat in the league at Como. So I do think that if it wasn't a Classico week, we would be happier about this
mm,
slim,
yeah.
marginal victory. But
Mm,
purely because the next game is a fixture that we lost 4 times last season, we conceded 16 goals in.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the feeling that Barcelona are just going to be a little bit too much to handle
Mm,
doesn't go away with a performance like
mm,
this.
yeah.
Certainly not with a scoreline like this.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I think in the CBS studio, Henri was asked by, I think, Kate, what does this performance do for the Clasico, for Madrid? And him being a Barcelona fan, he was pretty honest. He said the result would give them confidence, but the performance, not so much. And that has been the case, throughout the course of the first 3 months of the season, um, where we have the results to show for the hard work we put in, but uh, are we convincing? Are we really commanding? Does the possession stats actually underline what we set out to do? That is dominate not just possession for possession's sake and pinning teams back, but actually um, mustering meaty, well drilled chances consistently.
And even
And
considering that,
mm,
Sunil,
mm,
this was actually one of the better, or
mm.
should I say, less, worse performances that we've
Oh
seen in
yeah,
recent
for
weeks.
sure,
Like
for sure,
we've
for
seen
sure.
more drab football than this, even with better scorelines. Like I'm sure Valverde had a better game today than he did in multiple league games. I'm sure Vinny had a good outing. I'm sure Arda with
Mm,
a, I'm sure he's a, you know, eight 8 out of 10 day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, you don't have that cutting edge to your midfield and
Mm,
attack, and that's the only problem. You don't have someone that's constantly creating chances. I know Ada was brilliant today in moments, and Jude showed up in glimpses and reminded us of what he can do. But it's just it doesn't add up in terms
mm,
of volume. You
yeah.
understand, Sunil? It doesn't add up game after game. And
I would, especially in this, in just this game, against the Bianconeri in isolation. If we actually look at Gula's assist on a plate to
yeah,
Mbappe, if Mbappe finishes it, Mbappe's finishing look absolutely poor today.
everything else was fine.
Especially everything else was fine. The
Yeah.
movement, the willingness to press. I was very impressed. I do think that he has an extra motivation for the Champions League. I mean, it's only normal because he walks to the pitch, looking at 15 of them, and he has a lot of friends in the dressing room who has at least two on the menu. So he would be hungry. So I completely understand where his extra inch of determination comes from. But maybe it's the occasion, maybe it's the expectation. He just couldn't finish some of his chances. If you remember him slipping, it's normal. It's normal. As long as we win, and as long as he puts in a shift to actually um, give Juve a fair fight, I'm okay with it. But yeah, if the result was
But the amount of times that
mm, mm,
him or either him or Vinny would put through one goal and it didn't amount
yeah,
to anything. It either,
mm,
either amounted to a tame shot or just, we couldn't even get a shot off.
yeah,
That was really frustrating because the midfield did their job today, right? Bellingham was
mm,
creatively there. Guler
mm,
was brilliant with his vision and his passing. Fede Valverde, for once, his passing range, even from a right back position, was quite extraordinary to see. Like he pinged
yeah,
around the ball like it was nothing. And then when the final product came, it didn't like we got a bunch of corners, but what then? Like,
mm,
are we making the most of our corners, our set pieces routines? I
mm.
don't think so.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's a FIFA set piece routine. I'll be very honest because the chances of a volley. I mean, Fede is an exceptional, volley specialist. We have seen it, from all kinds of
yeah,
range. He just has the knack, the technique, right, the shot power. He is that element of surprise. But how often would you think you can bet on a goal? The ball was insane. If you look at the flight of the ball, the weight of the ball, the time that Fede had to position himself and unleash a shot, it was executed perfectly. But how often can you bank on that flying in top corner, right? Especially in the Champions League when the margins are so thin. I'm not sure why are we going for such heroics where probably it's because I mean we have eyes, right? So I'm pretty sure
yeah.
Xabi Alonso and his a video team has enough evidence to look at the numbers where our centre backs go in for an offensive duel, and more often than not, whether it be Chouameni, whether it be Militao. I mean, Militao recently has scored maybe a couple of goals here and there, but uh, all these guys, even Rudiger, at his pomp, he doesn't get at least he doesn't even get 3 goals a season consistently.
Yeah.
So they know that probably whipping the ball into the box is absolutely pointless. So they try to fashion something out of insane plays like this. But yeah, since you touched upon the attack, let's start there. Vinicius was insane for the goal, and he was a constant threat. But again, decision making isn't necessarily there. If you remember the chance that he had, I can't remember who put him through. Probably would have been Gula himself down the left, and he just opens his body up to bend the ball in with the defender right beside him. That's just poor.
Was it the one that was towards the end of the game? Because that was
No, no.
Courtois.
Uh, no, no, no. That was unfortunate. Thibaut releases him with a long throw in. I mean, long throw. But that's unfortunate. You can even the touch wasn't poor. I think Conceição does enough smartly by just putting enough pressure, tugging at him, but not pulling him down. So it's a 50-50. Conceição took a gamble and he came off on the right end of it. But I'm talking about a chance where Vinicius is bursting in behind on the left wing, and he has a couple of defenders trailing him, and especially one of them is right beside him, and he opens his body up to bend the ball in, and it's
Oh,
basically
yes.
inviting the defender to nick the ball, or make a tackle. It's poor for me. It's poor spatial awareness. Especially a guy like Vinicius, who is known for his dribbling, who's known for his close control.
Yeah.
The confidence isn't really there. But then we saw for the goal, when he's on it, he can just flick the switch and beat four man at will. That's insane. We need more of that. Vinicius,
I
talk
mean,
to me
that's
about that,
just
Sal.
his his ability to go from 0 to 100, I would say, in car terms, is magnificent, and it's
Mm,
as good as any winger, certainly in current world football terms. But
mm,
the truth also is that we haven't seen enough of that. Vinny turning on
mm,
the afterburners just to either have a laugh at his opposite wing back,
mm,
um, which I think he has a lot of opposition wing backs in La Liga that are more than capable of matching up to speed. Which I don't think the Juventus wing backs or the or the right centre back today, Gatti,
yeah.
was even equipped with the
Mm,
pace or the positional awareness to catch up with him. So
mm,
I don't think
mm,
it's a
mm,
fair match to judge
yeah.
him on this,
Yeah.
because he will come up against more capable defenders. Um, but those are glimpses where you see when he unleash something in him, like an animal in him that is still out there, still hungry to feed on poor defenders who don't know whether to turn or to face him.
Mm, mm,
Um, and I watched that and I remember the Winnie of old. It's just sometimes the end product is lacking. Sometimes he doesn't have the luck.
mm.
Sometimes he's just
At times,
frustrated and yeah.
at times, I do think he looks. He looks a lot more predictable than he used to be. I'm not sure if it's
That is true. That
you
is
know.
true. Which is why I'm saying,
Mm,
if you give a certain amount of credit to the quality of defending in La
mm,
Liga, then you
mm,
realize that those defenders have caught up with his style of play, with
yeah.
his gimmicks and his body feints, and
Mm,
which way he's
mm,
gonna go. Because
yeah.
with someone who likes going on the outside as much as him,
Mm,
he's rarely ever gonna cut in and have a shot, because he's
mm,
like 8 times out of 10 he's gonna try and beat you and go on his left foot, try and put a cross in, or still continue trying to dribble
mm.
through the edge of the box.
And he absolutely
Um,
doesn't trust. Since you mentioned the left foot, I'll just add this. He absolutely doesn't trust his left foot. At times, you just have to,
yeah, that's another
yeah,
issue.
just bank on your weaker foot.
That's another issue because I feel like half the time he's actually happy to win that corner off a
Mm,
deflection,
mm,
and he doesn't see it as sort of a last resort, because he's more willing to win that corner than actually cut it back to someone like Jude who's waiting on the edge of the box.
mm,
Um,
mm. Yeah,
but obviously one of those chances went through, and like we saw, it ricocheted off the post and into Jude Bellingham's path, which was resemblance of 2 seasons ago. Um, there was a lot of more, there was a lot other chances. Brahim Diaz cutting in and shooting with his weak foot, which I thought, even though from a tight angle, there was even Mbappe's chance, which went missing. There was multiple other chances, Mbappe from range as well, from just outside the box. I thought those were chances that deserved to be put away. We could have easily been seeing 3-0, 4-0, and that you know
yeah.
that would have changed the complexion. That would have changed the feeling going into the Clasico.
Mm,
Had we been more productive with our unproductive, because we had the shots, we had the chances to bank on today. That was not a
yeah.
problem today. That was not the main concern. Um, but yeah, credit to the Juve keeper as well. uh, because he did more than enough to hold his own. Uh, Obviously, Thibaut Courtois on our end is always going to be there with big saves like that to save us time and again.
Mm.
Him going down on his knees, just uh, what's his name, Lachovic, closing down. I mean, Militao does enough to delay that chance. But all I'm saying is that both teams had enough chances on either end of the pitch to justify more goals in this match, a better scoreline. But both defenses and both goalkeepers, especially, uh, did well in the end.
Yeah, I'll be very honest. The whole idea behind a game like this is uh, to build confidence, right? But then Juve isn't necessarily a team that would allow us the time, and I mean they would allow us the time. They
Yeah,
won't, like, they didn't really press us, but they have a very rigid low block. I think they're just, yeah, fighting for their lives, basically fighting for the manager to keep his job. It's they're pretty much. I mean, they're not that low in the table, in Syria, but um, when it comes to their general recent form, they are a team that's basically fighting against the tide to just stay afloat. So I wouldn't expect us to really. I didn't expect us to really pepper their goal, but like you said, when we get the sort of chances we got tonight, putting a few of them away would have really changed the entire narrative. But then now, if you look at Barcelona, they won what, like 6-1 or something. Although questionable red card aside, they churn out consistent performances. I mean, they're defensively weak, but going forward, I don't think they have any issues. But at
yeah.
times, we kind of lack conviction attacking. So I do think the Clasico on Sunday has a lot banking on it. And
That's the thing, Sunil. Our
mm,
defense has issues. Our defense has injury woes, and um, our main, sort of fix to that is that we play damage control and we hope and pray that the opposition
mm,
does not pounce on their chances and that we take our chances on the day like this. Um, but Barcelona, on the other hand, right, they have this innate ability of always outscoring their opponents. Even if their opponent scores 2 or 3, they're always gonna, be there and try and score more because their attack is so fluent and their kind of football is so. I mean, obviously it's mesmerizing, but it's also functional, right?
yeah,
So at
yeah,
this point, going into the Classico, I'm more hopeful than I am confident. Even though we
mm,
go in as league leaders, even though we go in with a winning streak at the Bernabeu and or whatnot, but all of it, like obviously I know it's an away game, but all of that confidence
we play at
builds.
home. We play at home, so
Is it at home?
yeah,
Apologies, but um, yeah, like I said, all of
yeah. The
all of this
Clasico is still
confidence builds
Clasico is
to
still
very
far away.
little.
Yeah,
It
the
builds to
Clasico
very
is still
little,
far away.
Sunil.
There's 3 more days.
Yeah.
The For me, the main takeaway is the
But
fact
you
that, like,
you
I
you almost
always
look
knew.
at this game as a
Mm.
pre-classical cursor, right,
No,
Sunil?
I get it. No, I get it. But I don't think we are good enough to actually go toe to toe with Barcelona. So for me, this entire conversation is a bit, pointless, because when you look at Barcelona and when you look at us, yes, Barcelona kind of have their off days, and when it goes bad, they completely lose the plot, and they concede 4 or 5 goals and look out of sorts. But for us, it's been a constant case of we haven't been convincing. We look like we give up chances even to the most notoriously blunt attacks. I mean, Juve, they didn't score for 4 or 5 games straight, or something. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if I'm right, but they had 5 draws. I know that for a fact. I saw the game against Milan, obviously for Luka Modric, but they don't really have the players or the nous, even with Vlahovic, who is their most prolific player over the last 2-3 years. They don't look like they can put away the chances. If you remember the chance that Openda had towards the end, the Vlahovic
Yeah,
chance where he basically outruns Militao, which I was super surprised that he could, really take Militao on and beat him.
yeah,
If those chances go in and Thibaut don't really play, out of his skin, we look like a broken record, and the media and the people who wants to see us have a absolute meltdown, would run away with it because let's be honest, the chances we gave up against Juve, I know it's a big team, it's a European Classico in a sense, right? But Juve, with how they look these days and the chances we give up, to a team like them in the form they're in, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. If you remember, the Raul Asensio block, Kalulu being a wing
oh
back
yeah,
who doesn't necessarily have the service or the quality of service to actually, whip a ball in. They just put their bodies on the line too many times to actually
yeah.
um, save
Militao
us.
also has he had one of those moments.
Mm,
Then again, every time they were confronted one on one, both Militao. I mean, Militao still did all right, but Asensio, for me, he looked sheepish when he was confronted one on one, or when he was put in difficult positions against players who weren't meant to be there. Because um, as rigid as you say, Juventus were, they were pushing men forward in numbers when they were attacking, which is not very
mm,
frequent, but when they were, there was quite a few black shirts in that Real Madrid defensive area. So if Raul Asensio is going to start the Clasico, I'm not feeling too confident about his decision making, his positional awareness as a centre back. But it's he's the best we've got, right? Like because of our injury crisis, because you cannot afford to play. I mean, Chouameni in this kind of form, you cannot afford to misplace or
yeah.
displace him from the midfield. You almost have to just trust Raul Asensio's instincts because he is a defender who relies mostly on his instincts. He's not someone who's gonna, like you described Dean Husson as someone who doesn't like to get their hands dirty the other day. I
Mm,
think Raul
yeah.
Asensio is the exact opposite of that.
Hmm.
Right.
I think that's the only thing saving Raul Sensio because technically he is not good enough. Like
Yeah.
you said, the reading of his game isn't really there yet. But one thing that I'm pretty sure that's going to happen is he's going to get beaten, and we'll have to be ready for it. I know the Bernabeu was chanting his name. I was really impressed with his performance overall, but um, yeah, I mean
There's
this
still
this whole
cracks to his
setup.
game that show
Mm,
up, right? So there's still
yeah.
flaws when every time he gets beat, every time I know he manages to recover, and some of it with his pace and some of it pure grit and determination.
Mm,
Um, but there are technical flaws to his game which you cannot deny.
mm,
Which against a
yeah.
side like Barcelona, the, the guys that they have up front, those guys are wicked, Sinead. Those
Hmm.
guys are not, Yildiz and Vlahovic. Those guys are the defending La Liga champions. So
Yeah.
uh, I
Yeah.
just don't know where we're going with this defense. And obviously,
Hmm.
it's not for a lack of personalities. It's just injuries, and what can you do about that? But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. The chances we give up, especially on a regular basis, has always concerned me, and I've been pretty vocal about the fact that yeah, controlling games is okay as long as you don't give up high percentage chances, but we end up giving anyone, no matter if it's Getafe, no matter if it is Osasuna, Marseille. Marseille lost 2-1 today to Sporting, although they got a red card. But I'm telling you, all these teams, they do feel like this Madrid team can be got at, right? They do when they actually take a deeper look at how we set up. We don't have a clear structure whereby if things aren't really going to plan, we can actually fall back and then revert back to basics. We tend to play the same way, whether we are losing, whether we are a goal up, so there isn't much flexibility to this setup, and that's concerning. That's concerning. I mean, Jude Bellingham basically admitted it to Del Piero in the post-match interview, whereby he said that I think he didn't explicitly say it, but I think Del Piero was asking him what was the difference between maybe last season and now, and the first season, and he immediately said that Ancelotti has a lot more adaptability to his game. We play a lot many more formations, and uh, so it almost feels like Xabi Alonso needs to fashion a couple more um, alternatives to actually see out top quality sides, because the derby, basically answered all our questions, and the lingering fear that we had going into that, where was actually proven to be right. So this game is, for me, it's basically, at least for me, like, I hate to say this, hate Barcelona with all my soul, but going into this game, it should be damage control. If we can get away with a draw, good enough. If it's high scoring,
anything that keeps us on top of the table.
Yeah,
for now.
it'll be great. It'll be great. But classical distraction aside, Jude Bellingham back amongst the goals. Sahil, what did you think about his performance and his general play? I do think this guy is. There's a reason why he's a non-negotiable starter. I don't think it's just because of his name he gets to start. He is insane.
Yeah, there's a certain quality that comes associated and attached to Jude Bellingham's name every time, like you mentioned, his name is on the starting sheet, on the starting 11, because we missed that energy, we missed that dynamism when he was out with his shoulder injury. And even about the shoulder injury, like, who comes back from a shoulder operation, for 2 months into the season? All of us expected him to, come back in late November, December, but
Yeah,
he is like, he's I know he was not fully fit when he came back, like right around the derby, and then there were still questions about his fitness, especially because Arda Güler was getting a good run of games. But games like these, he proves why he's so quintessential to any manager that's going to play, that's going to be managing Real Madrid, because he's not a system player as such, right? He's regardless of system, regardless of the players around him, he's gonna put in the hard yards. And he might not be at his best, at his most dynamic best when it comes to his pressing game right now, or that might just be limited a little bit by just how this system works. But you see him dropping in and popping up in some really good positions when it comes to, because he is a creative midfielder. At the end of the day, he's playing as a 10, right? So he's supposed to be showing up and receiving the ball in between the lines. I see him do that. I see him do that a lot more than he did, especially in those first few games after his injury recovery. And we also saw that he can certainly coexist in the same system as Arda Güler. So that was something that was
onto that quickly.
Yeah,
because I do feel like they can coexist, but with a few adjustments that needs to be implemented into the system, because they do tend to drop into the same positions more often than not. I mean, Jude Bellingham has the advantage of basically the physical advantage to actually make, because he's a specimen and he's so used to doing it, he can stretch defenses by just making a deep run, which Arda Güler cannot. So I can see that being a huge weapon. But apart from that, they both like kind of drop it into half spaces, mostly on the left, at least for today.
Well,
I
Arda is
just
also
hope,
most flexible with that, and he can pop up on the right as well. But go on.
but some of the stuff I noticed today, our left was kind of a bit clogged because it was Jude, it was Goller, it was Vinicius, it was Mbappe. It's a whole clusterfuck down our left. But if we kind of tame it a bit and basically, yeah, like give them a lot more game time together, in the same starting 11, starting big games, this could eventually evolve into a very functionally devastating partnership because they can complement each other very well, I think. um yeah, but I still do think there might come a point, this is me just looking into the future. Arda Güler, for all his excellent form, um he should have had an assist today as well, if Mbappe managed to put that away. But I do think Jude Bellingham would come to a point where if other players, I mean, other Güler is playing out of skin, but
Yeah,
if someone is sacrificed, it's going to be Arda Güler. So I do feel sorry for him because he isn't the name that Jude Bellingham is yet, or Vinicius is yet. So that'll be the only worry I have. But if the results are consistently pouring in, and they more often than not tend to have a significant say in it, yeah, this is the key, man. Arda Güler, Mbappe, Jude Bellingham is it's going to be spicy, especially with Jude Bellingham being the man we need in the box. Yeah, how many times, Sahil, throughout the season we watch games,
yeah,
La Liga, Champions League, you name it. We are screaming for someone to take that gamble, right? Just be in the box. Maybe you might not get the ball, right? Maybe you might not even, you know, uh,
get the ball.
nudge the.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you might not even challenge the the brain capacity of the opposition centre backs who is just hell bent on staying put.
marking you. Yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily find much joy, but just existing in the box might lead to chaos that we desperately need at times.
it does wonders. Yes, and
Mm,
we've seen it with some of the smartest second strikers and center forwards that have played
mm,
for us in the past. Um, but as far as this Jude and Arda topic goes, I actually think a little bit differently when it comes to Arda. I feel
mm,
uh, Shabby knows that Arda is not going to give him the kind of output and productivity that Jude will, or
mm,
that Jude could, right? So I think as long as Jude delivers on the goals and assist front, he's
yeah,
going to be in that team. But the moment he
mm,
stops delivering there, I feel Arda has a little bit of an edge because just
mm,
purely because Shabby likes him more
mm,
in that position, right? And there's no doubt that they can coexist in that position, like we saw for several minutes today. Um, but it's not going to happen every game, right? It's not gonna be something
yeah,
that is everlasting and that sustains itself even in a big
mm,
game because you cannot afford to have someone. Um, I know Jude puts in the work, but Arda sometimes goes missing in that midfield. So you cannot have somebody,
mhm,
especially in Xabi Alonso's system, that does not put in as much defensive work as his
mm,
position requires him to. Because in this role and in this current system that we play today, Arda is not a 10. Arda is the orchestrator. He's
yeah,
the man on the edge of the box who is,
deep lying playmaker. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's the man on the edge of the box. He's the man who's dropping in midfield to
Especially in
orchestrate
build up, he
things.
helps out so
Yeah,
much, so much,
yeah,
so much.
and I don't think Fede or Jude can do that as well as Arda is fitting
Mm,
into that role right now because
mm,
his his pinpoint accuracy with his passing and just his precision with everything that he does
mm,
is a little bit of an advantage in those
mm,
moments of even in transition actually.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously Jude has the legs, right? Jude has the dynamism in
mm,
midfield that he offers. And he always has, like, obviously
mm,
going up front, he offers another big presence in the box, and
mm,
you explained it pretty clearly. Like,
yeah,
um, I can't dispute that you need a presence in the box, especially with someone like Arda, someone like Mastantuono who likes to cross the ball, who
mm,
likes to cut it back. Right, you need someone in the box. So
yeah.
it's just
Also,
that it takes
go
me
on.
back to a few seasons ago where well, Modric was the legs, and Cruz was the orchestrator.
Mm,
And for some reason, beyond a certain point, they just couldn't play together. Like Zidane
mm,
had
mm,
decided that he was going to use them in exclusivity
mm.
for one reason or the other. Um, I don't think we're going to get to that point anytime soon, but
Yeah,
the way I see them on the pitch right now, when it works, it's so beautiful. Uh, but when it doesn't, right, when it goes
yeah,
wrong with 110 and one half 10
yeah.
who's been deployed as an eight,
Mm.
um, trying to coexist together, when it
That's
doesn't
why I
go
think Arda
in
Güler.
a
I don't.
stride.
Yeah, I don't think Arda Güler is going to be the easy scapegoat. If things don't pan out. But I do see him really putting in a shift. Like he doesn't have the skill set to actually win back possession and whatnot, but he do tend to get stuck in and
Yeah,
press
he's
really
gotten
well.
better at even
Yeah.
holding off oppositions,
Mm,
or defenders, or
mm,
even
mm,
winning fouls. Something as simple as that. He's
mm,
gotten
mm,
severely better at that, and that I can give him. But also, Sunit, you have to consider the fact, like I said, Shabi just has a little bit of a soft spot for Arda Güler.
mm. Ashik was mentioning, Jude gives us a two-way presence. Even when he struggles offensively, he balances us defensively, which is where Arda is soft. Yeah, we have to just give him time. He has to develop that side of his game. It'll come, it'll surely come, But yeah, we can't expect him to be, as well balanced as Jude Bellingham, because that is not his game.
Yeah,
Ashik was also mentioning Arda is from an art gallery and Jude is from a hardware store. That's a really good way to put it. One is
that's
pleasing to the eyes, and the other provides utility. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's
I
very well
think
put.
that. Mm, I don't think that's why it is kind of exciting in that sense, because I've said this many a times. We look super super boring to watch, and I do hope Goller and Bellingham gives us that much needed gold dust. But yeah, quickly on to some of the defenders. We touched upon Raul Asensio.
Yeah,
Um, but are you kind of concerned about Militao's form as well? I mean, he had a couple of crucial interceptions. If you remember I can't remember who it was. I jotted it down, but I can't find it anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, the Kalulu tackle towards the beginning of the second half. We see
mm,
that, but then we see so many moments where he just absolutely switches off. It could be down to the constant carousel of centre backs he has to play with. One night it's Alaba, next time it's Hausen, the next night it's Sensio.
yeah.
Um, and it's Fede at times on the right, on the left. It's Carreras for now at least. That's one thing that's stable. But um, do you think there is more to it than just the constant rotation in the back line? And we all know that Militao isn't the greatest defender in terms of like he can have his off moments,
Yeah,
but then when we are so in disarray,
yeah.
especially in defensive transitions, I do expect him to be the guy who leads from the front.
Look, one, like you mentioned, it's a tendency more than form, right?
Mm,
It's not something
hmm.
Militao started doing suddenly at this point
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
season.
yeah.
He's shown his inability to fix his erratic nature
Mm,
time and again in the past, but because he's so fast and so athletic and so tall as well, like that almost covers up for him being erratic in nature. Um,
mm-hmm, hmm.
and we've had erratic defenders in the past. It's not like Sergio Ramos and Rafael Varane were the most error-prone, error-free, sorry, defenders in the world. Uh, Secondly, if we go into the Clasico or in any other big game with the same backline, I see Militao as the leader of the defense.
Hmm.
Uh, Not purely because of his experience, but also because he commands a little bit more, into
Yeah.
that position than Raul Asensio does.
Mm-hmm.
or even Hausen for that matter, but Hausen would offer more stability and more balance when he's paired alongside someone like Militao. Because Militao can clean up, and Hausen is just Hausen. He's positionally very aware of where he is and where he
Mm-hmm.
needs to be in every position, in every situation. Because having played in the Prem, even for a season like that, that helps immensely. Um, but I do think that who you pair Militao with, and I've said this for almost 2 seasons now,
Mm-hmm.
who you pair Militao with is incredibly crucial to getting the best out of him because um, the Champions League winning season 3 years ago, where we first started seeing, well, again, that was also because of an injury crisis, but where we first started seeing him and Rudiger play together in Rudiger's first season, in fact, it was a mess because they were too alike, Sunil.
Yeah,
If you remember,
yeah.
they
Two
were,
aggressive centre
yeah,
backs who likes to play on the front foot. Yeah, yeah.
they were way too
Mm,
like each other.
mm,
Um, and that likeness was a problem. I don't think that likeness is a problem with when he plays with with Dean Hawson, but
mm,
it could be when he plays with someone who's also just as error prone, if not worse, someone like Raul Asensio, someone who's just not mature enough
mm.
in defensive transition, like
Yeah.
when to give way and when to buy himself time against like Militao on that defensive. I know Flahovic outruns and absolutely beats him for pace. But
Mm.
also, if you see, Militao buys Courtois a lot of time towards
A
the
lot of
end.
time. Yeah, but by
Yeah,
showing it out wide. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I see it. I see
So
it. I see it.
I think there's details like that to his game that simply do not exist
Mm,
in Raul Asensio's game.
mm, 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 mm. Yeah, Raul Sensio is just passion first. Thought process next
Yeah.
kind of player. We do need characters like it. We we kind of tend to put ourselves in these positions, consistently.
Mm.
Ashley was saying Asensio is injured apparently. I don't think he's injured. I just read that
It looked
that
more
was
like a
just a
cramp.
knock. Yeah,
Yeah.
knock or a cramp. So
Mm.
I don't think it's serious, but yeah.
And also Militao is gonna have bad games, but he's also gonna have games where he doesn't put a foot wrong.
Mm,
So
yeah, yeah.
if the manager is willing to bet on it, if Ancelotti bet on it for 2 straight seasons when Militao was a starting centre back,
Mm,
um, I
mm,
think we pretty
mm,
much have to side with how the club sees it.
yeah, yeah. Fede Valverde, right back style.
I mentioned
Impressive.
earlier it was one of his better performances as of late.
Mm,
And unfortunately, he's going to stay there because, like, even if Carvajal is fit, even if Trent is fit and
mm,
not suspended, would you put him in for the Clasico? Maybe. I mean, it's a conversation that needs to be had.
mm.
It also depends on how fit they are. If you can get something on that.
Yeah, and Carvajal and Trent isn't starting right on Sunday. It's going to be Fede. But
Yeah, but with regards to their fitness, Sunil,
mm. But in the long run, Fede kind of looks like he's going to be you know it's going to be right back for the foreseeable future.
even
He
though we've
still
got
can be. Mm,
two of
mm.
the best right backs in the world, right? Isn't that so ironic?
It is. It is. I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
If Trent and Carvajal comes back, and then we'll have so many weeks where we go into the Champions League, and it's a three match three match day week,
Yeah.
basically. So we're playing every 2 days, and then if one of those guys puts in a performance that turns heads, then it's a question, and it'll be
Yeah, no, for
uncomfortable
sure.
questions.
For sure,
Yeah.
100%. But speaking purely about the Clasico, because Valverde has just put in a very reliable performance.
Yeah,
Uh,
no way in hell we
yeah,
take Valverde off right back for Sunday. No,
yeah. I mean,
it's a
you could
no-brainer.
see him
Mm.
being, you could see Trent or Carvajal coming on,
And
probably Carvajal.
especially, go on.
especially.
No, especially since Rashford is playing out of his mind. Like I've seen a few Barcelona games, and Rashford just looks like he has a lot to prove.
Oh yeah,
Especially after his
his
time in
dribbling game is just very direct right now.
England. So we need someone like Fede who has the experience and has the head to actually help us out because Asensio needs help. It's as clear as daylight, and I'm pretty sure he knows as well. And
Yeah,
since we're on Fede, I really liked what he did for the Gonzalo chance. I know people were just going crazy why he didn't go left where they were. I think at least a couple of runners, trailing runners, who could have had a better chance at goal.
yeah, yeah,
For me as a captain, Gonzalo basically getting next to no minutes throughout the season so far.
yeah.
Him basically getting to have a goal on a night like this would have been great. So I was really happy that Fede actually,
Mm.
said, "Fuck the left hand side. You guys chill. Let me try and play Gonzalo in, but it didn't come
So
off."
we
And
pretty much closed the game off by that point as well.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, exactly. Like if it was 10, 50 minutes earlier, it would completely look like we wasted a pretty promising opportunity. But
Mm.
the crowd wasn't pleased, when Fede squared it and not squared it. I mean, when Fede kind of passed it to his right side and Gonzalo was, a bit too close to him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it didn't really please the crowd, especially since they were
I mean,
crying out for goals. You know, um,
if it was a different scoreline, maybe yes, but you can't deny the fact that Mbappe and Vinicius and
mm,
yeah,
mm,
Mbappe and Vinicius had their fair share of chances throughout the 90 minutes.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the
it's
goals,
sensible
right?
what Fed did. Yeah,
Mm,
it's that. Yeah, it's just
mm,
balance of probability in that chance in that particular situation, who the ball goes to and how likely he is to score. I mean, people go crazy about XG and whatnot,
mm,
but a player who's
yeah.
just good at heading the ball has a much better XG than someone who's not. A player who's
Mm,
much better at finishing from close angles um, probably has a higher XG from there. So
yeah, yeah. Also, one more thing that I noticed, right? Like we have this tendency, like I've seen this many a times this season. This is a clear lack of leadership. This is the clear lack of guys not taking responsibility and stepping up. When we defend transitions, defensive transitions, right?
yeah.
And we feel like there's a slight chance someone can be caught offside, we just give up. We just give up and
Oh
wave at
yeah,
the
just
linesman.
play for the whistle, man.
Yeah, I don't know why we do that because it can really hurt you, especially in the era of VAR. It's centimeters. There's nothing you can do. Basically, it's not in your hand. So what's in your hand, you can control. That is playing to the whistle and tracking your runs and being diligent, right? Just throwing your arms up in the air and moaning doesn't get you anywhere. That's why, yeah, we just need leaders, man. Um,
Yeah,
I really worry for this dressing room, especially, Fede, we love Fede, right? We love Vinicius. These are our boys, these guys directly had, direct hands to play in
true.
us winning two Champions Leagues in the last 4 years. And that's a fact. Nobody can take that from them. And, they've basically given us a lifetime of memories. Um, but are they leaders that can, drag their, teammates out of a sticky situation? I don't think so. Yeah, we just need a proper captain. I hope it emerges. If you look at Fede, there is all the signs that we need from a player who wants to be captain, who could be captain, who
Yeah,
could be fit uh, for captaincy. But yeah, it's still too a bit too early. I think in his.
yeah. I mean, we sit here and talk about the lack of leadership time and again after every game.
Mm, mm,
It's just something that will, grow into these boys with time. And even when Danny Carvajal is on the pitch and when he's wearing the captain's armband, sometimes you see him act like a,
yeah.
someone who's not that mature. Like he loses
Mm,
his head more
yeah.
than more than other players on that pitch. So it's not like they have. Um, I mean, I don't want to
Mm,
call Carvajal a bad example, right? But these boys will learn with time. what it means to be Real Madrid captain, and there's a reason that seniority plays such a vital role in deciding who the next Real Madrid captain, plays out to be.
Yeah. Sometimes I do feel like it hurts us because just because you are at the club the
You've
longest
been yeah.
doesn't mean you have the quality. Because like when like I'm pretty sure you've been part of teams, right? I've been part of
Mm.
teams. We have played
Yeah.
football, cricket, or whatever the fuck, at not maybe at the professional level, but some sort of a level, right? And we know when we look at people if they have the essence, right? If they have the minerals to actually lead. Um, it's basically a case of either you have it or you don't. You can a yellow tape or a blue piece of fabric on your sleeve get you to be that guy. I'm not so sure. You can lead by example. That's good.
Yeah.
That has been okay to a certain extent. It has worked out, for many sides throughout,
Benzema did that
modern,
exceptionally after
yeah,
Cristiano Ronaldo left. So
modern history. But I still thought, I used to be going crazy at times, especially when Vinicius used to get insulted at the best eye and whatnot. Benzema just walks away from the scene. He doesn't want to be involved. I don't want captains like that. And now that I look back, like you're saying, Benzema was a fairly decent captain. He probably wasn't the guy who would rile you up, and I mean, he riled you up, but in a sense, like he wouldn't step in to defend a teammate, and like he wasn't Ramos, right? Like he wasn't.
I don't
Um,
think he would incite anything. That's the
mm,
only thing. I think he
yeah,
was involved in his fair share of controversies on and off the pitch, but uh, when it comes to like triggering something,
yeah,
purely like non-football related, I don't think he would do that on the pitch.
mm, yeah,
Like I
yeah.
don't think Benzema would dive or you know or foul someone so badly that he gets sent off. But
Yeah, yeah. I'll be very honest. When we used to have, the likes of Cristiano and Marcelo and Benzema and all of these guys, it was almost like we had leadership across the front line, across the midfield, across the back line. It was almost like even Varane, who
mm,
sometimes looked like he was not fit for the top flight in Spain, but for a schoolyard, he himself commanded his back line and his defensive area so much that I used to be like, yeah, like the job of the manager is super easy. But then
yeah.
again, this is a different era. We are kind of seeing how the modern dressing rooms look like, and how it's a lot more hands free, right? Thibaut was losing his mind, especially against Getafe.
As he
How the
should,
hell
man.
do
As
we
he should.
how the hell do we allow a chance at the 96th minute? We had a lot of similar plays, and he was absolutely losing his shit.
Yeah, there are
I
times
couldn't blame him.
when we just turn off Sunet, even with a lead, even with I mean, today
Hmm.
we didn't even have a lead that was that we could afford to, you know,
Let
let
slip,
them
yeah,
have, yeah,
yeah.
let them have something to dig back in. But even
Mm,
when we have a 2-0 or 3-0 lead, I don't completely feel comfortable going into the 65th, 75th minute of the game.
mm,
Um, Even when we're dominating possession, like because I know that this team can just turn off sometimes, like particularly with the defensive aspect of it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because that's when the team has to defend as one unit, as a whole.
Mm,
So no matter how much we start the game pressing high, I don't see that same intensity when we're actually having to defend a lead.
yeah.
Um, Especially slender margins, right? You
Mm,
need absolute clarity over the fact that your priority right now in this game is to defend that lead. I don't mind
mm,
playing negative football at that. I don't mind playing ugly football, right? In the last 20,
mm,
25 minutes of the game, if we're not even creating one chances
yeah.
um, against a team that needs to be respected, obviously. Um,
Mm,
but it's just that you need that clarity, and you need that sense of, how do I put it? I mean, again, I use the word unity, but
mm,
it's layman terms in it. You get what I mean.
No, I get it. Also, quickly, Brahim Diaz, only his third start of the season. What did you make of him and his overall performance? He
Yeah,
is a valuable asset.
absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned at the start of the game he was the extra man in midfield. He was the guy who helped Fede out
Yeah.
occasionally at defending on the right. So he is something that, again, you mentioned an asset. I would say he's a utility player that can fill in multiple roles and can slot in multiple situations as well. Like if you need a late goal, you can, or if you need somebody to run at a defense, you'll occasionally see the manager just throw Brahim on because um, he is uh, the wild card. Like you don't know what to expect of him sometimes because he can shoot incredibly well with both feet. He can create goals. He can defend. Uh, he can even run a game from midfield if he like wants to, because I see him do really
Drop
well
it
at that
deep. Yeah.
when I watch,
Yeah.
yeah, Morocco games. Yeah, so he's a proper team man, and it's a shame that he hasn't really seen the kind of game time that he did even in seasons of the past. Because if you watch again, like I said, Morocco, he is their star man. Um,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
I do wish he turns into more of a bench, more of a familiar face off the bench, because you do need someone who can put in a shift like 20-25 minutes of the game, to just either seal things up or insert fresh legs or a fresh pot of
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. Brahim has always shown us and shown the entire Europe that he has enough quality, but it's the consistency that is, sometimes lacking in his game. But
and
I
and
hope,
and product to an
mm,
extent,
yeah,
because
yeah,
then
yeah,
you're judging him as a wide attacker, even though he's
mm,
spending most of his time on the pitch as a right midfielder, or
mm,
even properly as a cam. But
mm,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Ashik was mentioning when Marcelo was the captain, Benzema wore the armband in most of the games, but we had leadership all over. Tony, Luca, Marcelo, and Benzema. So Benzema didn't have to do a whole lot. That is a valid point. Valid point. Um, Ashik was mentioning we won't need to defend a lead this weekend. We won't be leading at all. I just hope we can shut a few people up, man, because nobody is really giving us a prayer. Everybody just is pretty convinced that Barcelona is gonna is gonna give us maybe not a proper hounding, but they're going to get the edge. When you look at the league table Monday morning, um, we have to throw a spanner in the box. It's as simple as that, because the way we lost Derby, so early in the season, especially after the kind of run we had. Uh, the general perception of Madrid under Xabi Alonso is the fact that they might not score a lot of goals. They tend to pick up 3 points consistently, and they kind of look unbeatable to the untrained eye or to the casual neutral who watches us from afar.
Yeah.
But we know what the reality is like. So the general perception is so skewed after the derby
Mm.
that nobody really takes us seriously anymore. And that, like I've said this even in the last post match, I think that really bothers me, and we really have to put ourselves on the map again.
Well,
Um,
tonight the difference is just accumulative of all these things that we have been discussing game in, game out. Lack of leadership.
yeah,
We never saw a lack of leadership under Carlo. We never saw complacency towards the end of games. We always were, we made sure that we were committed to defending a lead, even
mhm,
if it was a slender lead. Like especially if it was a slender lead, we never saw such tactical inflexibility to an extent. We would adapt to certain situations in games, like the couple of years where we beat Man City. That was purely because Ancelotti was willing to show respect to Pep Guardiola's brilliance and his side's brilliance,
mhm.
of course. So you cannot compare the two and say that, okay, there was these things in those eras, and we didn't have such a young um, I wouldn't call this side inexperienced. I would call it
Mhm.
young. We didn't have a young squad um, that hasn't been left on its left to do and deal with things on its own before.
Yeah.
But these players are still young, still figuring out. So is the manager.
Mhm.
Uh, like I said, it's not fair to compare these guys to teams of the past and to eras of the past. Um, but yeah,
It's not fair, but I just this crest that we love and we rep and the crest we fight for, it demands a certain level of
character,
performance,
yes.
a character, a never say that attitude, an attitude to actually
Yeah.
put your head down and keep working if things don't go your way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But you
let's hope.
also
Let's
need
hope.
more of the other side of the game because remember the one guy in our defense who's actually got the most character or never say die attitude. That's the guy we've been criticizing
Mm,
for the past hour.
yeah, yeah.
So it's not all about that. Let's not forget the guys from the from the eras of the past. Not only were they passionate, they was also incredibly talented football players, and they showed up.
Mm.
They were consistent in big games in it.
Asensio is from the academy who has basically next to no top line experience. You know what I mean?
And so was
He
Nacho.
hasn't even.
Like
But
when he obviously came through, but he was also an academy player. So again,
not
like I said, yeah, it's not a fair comparison, but also
you're
like
too young to remember that Nacho never really had a major role until
until
three
yeah,
four
until Zidane came
years.
through. Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand that.
Mm,
But he was used pretty much insignificant for
mm,
large parts of his earlier Real Madrid career. I think the same goes
mm,
for Lucas, but um, that's what I'm saying, Sunil. Like there are things that weren't there. There are problems that weren't there structurally, and
mm,
in terms of club hierarchy as well. Uh, in those eras, right?
mhm.
The club
Yeah.
and this team, these players are more than culpable of not showing up when it comes to the big games, and that was never the case. That was never a problem back in the day. Even if we lost, we never,
Yeah.
were that bad that we were afraid of going into a Clasico and not as favorites. So
Mhm.
there are things that have changed at
Quickly,
the clubs in it. Yeah,
yeah, quickly to wrap it up.
yeah.
I've somewhere to go in like 10 minutes, but
No, I understand. Yeah,
I would like to big up the club, big up the fan base, big up the ultras. Not the ultras, by that I mean the Grada fans for actually taking the effort to put together a Vasquez tribute. On a Champions League night, the kind of performances that he has put in to actually feature a tifo with his old photograph from the stands when he was, I think, what, like 7 or 8 years old. Yeah, that just made my day. That just made me feel a little funny inside because for all the memes, for all the Lord Vasquez's, and all the banter that our own fans used to pelt at him. He was so special to me as a player, someone who never gave up on the pitch, who just had maybe only a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but boy did he know how to pull it off every single time he stepped on the pitch. So yeah, super happy to see. Yeah, such a warm reception for someone who left us last season. And they if they didn't do it, nobody would even care. But they went ahead and did it. Yeah, super happy about that.
certainly. Yeah, a true servant of the club. Like sacrificed playing in midfield for several years. Played a role that was quintessential to play at the time. Because every time Carvajal was injured, Lucas was there. So you need both balls and ability to be able to fill in. You can't just rely on
Yeah.
instinct to be able to fill in a role for that long. So every time you got trolled, I mean, obviously, I was also part of the trolling to an extent at one point,
Mm,
but
mm,
um, you have to put respect on his name.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he had the most assists during the three-peat era. With the likes of Cruz, Marcelo,
Yeah.
Modric, Cristiano. If you have 40 assists, only one more than Cruz though, I think. But
Mm.
yeah, if you have those kind of numbers playing a backup role, yeah, you're really good, really really good. But yeah, big up the chat, big up people tuning in later on as well. Big up our sponsors as always. Go check them out. Talksport Fan Network. Talksport is the biggest sports radio station in the world. Also, go show some love to Fanatics, official partners of La Liga and Real Madrid. Make sure you use our affiliated link in the description below. Um, but yeah, boys, watch out for the Classico preview. Hopefully, might be the next couple of days. It's the big one. Hopefully we are here Sunday with a smile. You know, uh, I can't take any more disappointment. We need a result and a big one. But yeah, until next time, Hala Madrid.
Real Madrid, guys. Okay. Sorry, yeah.